guys, thanks for coming and joining me here today. I am super excited. I have been wanting to show you guys how I make my traditional cheddar cheese. So that is what I am doing right now. So I've got about six-ish gallons in here, maybe a little bit more, but about 6 gallons. So all I've done is half of this is fresh milk from this morning. So we just poured it straight into the pot. And then I took some older milk that was yesterday's milk and might have been the day before. Anyways, yesterday's milk, skimmed off all the cream that I could pretty much to use for butter. And then I poured the rest into here. So I would call this like a partial skim cheese because I skimmed off about half of the milk. I skimmed the cream off. And then this morning's milk, obviously I didn't skim it, it just went straight into the pot. So I have had this sitting on the stove, not warming up actually, it's just been on the stove. My oven is on, so there's been some heat coming up. Well, I got other things done, and now I have time to get to my cheese. So I'm just turning on my thermometer. It is at 73 degrees, so we need to get it up to 88 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason I'm sitting on a stool today is because there is a period where for 45 minutes, I'm going to sit here and stir straight for 45 minutes. So it is nice to have a stool or something to sit on. That's nice and handy when you're making traditional cheddar because there's a lot of stirring, and it's not necessarily, well, there's a lot of stirring, but there's a long period that you will be sitting here stirring for quite some time. But it's so worth it. I love traditional cheddar. So I will turn this on a very low heat. As low as my stove can go, so you want a low heat. The trick with cheese is you want to go low and slow. You want it to heat up very slow and gradual. Anytime you deal with your cheese, you want to be very gentle and very soft and smooth. You don't want to stir quickly. You want to stir smoothly and softly. When you're handling the curds, you want to be gentle. You don't ever want to be rough with your cheese. So slow, low and slow, low heat, nice and slow, and very gentle with your cheese. So I'm going to get my spoon here and just gently stir. And just gently stir in an up and down motion to try to get some of the cream to go down and mix evenly into it until it reaches 88 degrees. So we are just stirring very gently until we reach 88 degrees. Now typically this beginning part, heating it up to 88 degrees, I have it on a real low heat, as low as can go. And I would actually usually be busy doing something else, letting it slowly get up to temperature because this is a nice heavy bottom pot. Give a gentle stir here and there periodically throughout that time. I'd have my thermometer on, watch it as it's increasing slowly but surely, and just be busy with something else in the kitchen while I'm watching it gradually get to heat. But to be honest, it's a busy day, so I'm just taking a moment and I'm just sitting and I'm just going to gently stir this thing until it gets to heat. Sometimes it's nice to have an excuse to just have to sit for a bit. Now, starting off making cheese, you want to make sure everything is sanitized. Everything has been cleaned well and boiled in water. I do not do that anymore because I've got the system down, but in starting off, I recommend doing that. I would get a separate pot and boil your spoon that you're going to be stirring with, the end of your thermometer, the cloth, the cheesecloth that you're going to be molding your cheese in, my cheese press, all those things. Anything that's going to touch the milk, make sure it has been boiled and sanitized. One thing that I used to do in the beginning when I first started is I would wash my pot nice and well, and then I would pour boiling hot water all over it on the inside. And then yeah. So now what I do is everything is clean and well, good to go. But I fill my kettle of water and then I boil it, and then I'll show you. I'll pour it over my whole cheese press, and I will pour it over my cheesecloth that I'll be using, and basically all that stuff that is going to be touching it in the aging process. So yeah, that's what I've gone to doing now, and it works just fine. Okay, so we have hit 88 degrees. Now we're going to add in the culture. So you're going to want mesophilic culture for traditional cheddar. And this is how I started off with making cheese, mesophilic culture. And it comes in these, I just ordered this actually from Amazon. I ordered this one from, but it comes with these little packets, and it tells you the directions on how much to use. Okay, each packet will culture up to 4 gallons of fresh milk. So I would probably actually just use one packet for 6 gallons. I wouldn't bother opening another one, but it'll tell you the directions on how to use it. So pretty simple. But I am going to use backsplash today from my last cheese making. So it calls for 1 cup of backsplash. Okay, so we've got 1 cup of backsplash in here. And I'm just going to, or you can use your mesophilic culture, but add your culture in when you hit 88 degrees. And then I'm just going to gently stir it to try to mix it in evenly. Gave it a little stir, and now I am going to cover it. The heat is off and everything. I'm going to cover it and let it rest for 40 minutes. So I will set my timer, set your timer, because it's easy for time to get away from you and you forget, oh man, it's probably been 40 minutes, but it was more like an hour and a half. So set your timer for 40 minutes, let it rest, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so excuse the mess. We've got pancakes going on now. All right, so now we have hit 40 minutes of the culture sitting in here doing its thing. So now I am going to add in the rennet and let it rest for 30 minutes, sit and do its thing. So the rennet you want to add into, so this recipe with 6 gallons calls for a teaspoon of rennet. Also, this rennet doesn't say any directions, but there are some rennets that will tell you how much to use to the portion amount of milk. So this one doesn't, and I know this recipe calls for a teaspoon of rennet. So I'm doing a teaspoon of rennet into a 1/4 cup of filtered water. You want to make sure it's filtered water. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Thank you. Okay, I give it a little mix, and then I'm going to add it into my milk. And you want to mix it gently, nice and slow, an up and down motion. Cover it again and then let it sit for 30 minutes. So I'm going to put my timer on for 30 minutes and then we'll come and check it out. Okay, so I just showed you guys the clean break in my curd. So, because the 30 minutes has gone up. So now I am cutting it into 1-inch cubes. So you're just gonna cut it all this way first. My whole curd is wanting to spin. And this doesn't have to be perfect. And then across, you're shooting for 1-inch size cubes. And then you want to go at an angle. Like I said, this is never pretty, but it works. My cheese turns out good, and that's all that matters. You just do your best. Okay, now that that's cut, I'm going to put the lid back on and let the curds rest for 5 minutes. All right, so the curds have rested for 5 minutes. So now the stirring part begins. So you're going to set your timer for 45 minutes, and you want to take the full 45 minutes to get this up to 100 degrees. And you can use a spoon to stir. I'm going to use my hands because I've learned that it works. It's just easier to get the curds to, because the goal is to get the curds to about equal size. Of course, it's not going to work out that way. You cannot get them all the exact same size. It's impossible. But you do want to get them pretty close. I can control it a lot more with my hand. So I make sure my hand is nice and clean, and I'm just going to gently stir. Oh, I forgot. Okay, so I turned the stove on low. You want it as low as it can go. And then you're just going to stir your curds very gently, a spoon or your hand, whatever, as long as it's nice and clean. And I want to get it up to 100 degrees. But you want to try to take the full 45 minutes of stirring to get up to that 100 degrees. Right now my curds are big chunks like this, and I'm just going to gently break them in half inside the pot. Just gently break them up. You don't even have to do that too much, just from the stirring alone. It breaks them up, but as you come across bigger chunks, just gently break them apart, whether with your spoon or your hand, whatever. But the gentle stirring does naturally break most of them up. But yeah, you just, you want to try to get them all to be as equal as you possibly can in size. Okay, so we just finished our 45 minutes of stirring, and now we are going to, the heat has been off. We reached 100 degrees. Anyways, so now I am going to put the lid on and then let it sit for 40 minutes, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so I have got my kettle nice and hot. It just whistled a minute ago. So I've got my cheese press here, and then I've got my cheesecloth inside of it. And it's set up on my goodness, I can't even think of the name. Okay, wow. I don't know. This thing. I don't know why my mind is going blank. That's absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, on top of that, so I'm going to pour this hot boiling water all over this. Get it nice and good. And I'm trying to get that strainer thing below as well because I am going to be using that for the cheese. So that's all good. And then I'm going to pour it over my cheese press as well. And there we go. This is very hot, so I'm going to let it drape over my faucet for a minute. The time is almost up to get the curds out of the pot. I'm going to be using this, so I want to kind of air it out so it cools off. I don't want it to burn my curds. So let it cool off for a minute. Okay, and then I'm going to drape it in my cheese press. And then I will get the cheese pot. Okay, so we have let the cheese sit for 40 minutes. And our time is up now. So now I am going to strain off most of the whey. You could save this and do a lot with it, but I'm not going to today. So we want to save some whey with this. So I poured off a really good amount. I think I've got it down to what I need, but I'm going to scoop out the curds and scoop them into here and get all my curds into my cheese press inside of my cheesecloth. Which my cheesecloth I use is a flour sack cloth that I get from Walmart. Okay, so we scoop out our curds. Here they are. I'm getting down to the really fine little bits of curds, so I'm going to use this to try to get as many as I possibly can. Okay, so I've pretty much gotten all the curds out, and I've got about 3 inches. You want about 2 to 3 inches of whey left in the bottom of your pot. So I'm going to go put this back onto the stove, and I'm going to turn the heat to medium. Here are my curds. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out. And then I'm going to place my curds into this straining thing and place it on the pot. I will show you in just a sec. Okay, so it's one big mess, I'm going to go set this on my pot. Okay, so I forgot actually, this colander thing that I strain with, this does not fit on my big giant cheese pot. It's too big. It'll just drop right in. So I transferred the whey to my old cheese pot, which is a smaller pot, still large, but smaller. And then this thing rests on it perfectly. So the point of this is we're bringing the whey to a boil, and it's going to steam this cheese. So as soon as it comes to a boil, as soon as I start seeing that steam coming up, I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I actually have it on high right now. So as soon as I start seeing that steam come up, I'm going to turn it down, and then I just want a steady steam coming, and I'm going to steam it for 10 minutes on this side, and then turn the timer off, and then flip it and set it for another 10 minutes. Steam it on both sides for 10 minutes. Okay. So we've been steaming for 10 minutes on this side. Now I am going to flip the whole curd and steam for another 10 minutes. Okay, so that 10 minutes is up now. Now what you do is you're going to cut it into fours. And then you want to break them. It's hot. Ooh, gotta be careful. It's very hot right now. And you want to get the side that hasn't been exposed to the steam, face it down that way. It would be a lot easier if I had a bigger pan thing to do this in, but it works. It's what I have now. It works way better. This works way better for 3 gallons. What I used to do, I do 6 gallons now, so it's very tight. One day I will upgrade. But anyways, you want to try to get them fairly even. But the goal is those sides that hadn't been exposed to the steam, face down, and then that's going to steam for 10 minutes, and then we're going to flip the whole thing. It'll kind of be together. Flip the whole thing and steam it for another 10 minutes, and it works out where all 4 sides have been steamed. So that's how it works with traditional cheddar.
Chicken, turkey.
Hot. Okay, so my steaming is done. Now I am going to take my chunks of cheese and I'm just going to slice them up. You want them in like French fry slices. So like 3 inch in length and 1 inch in width. It doesn't have to be perfect, just French fry look kind of thing. And so we're going to cut them up into French fries, basically. Pop them in this bowl, and then for 6 gallons, this is 6 gallons of milk that we've done, turned into cheese. We're going to use 4 tablespoons of salt. And I like to use sea salt. I normally use Redmond's real salt, but I found with the minerals in it, sometimes in the aged cheese, you'd get a little crunch here and there, and that was from the minerals in the salt. So if you don't want to get a little crunch anywhere in your cheese, use sea salt. It works very well. Okay, so we're going to slice these up. Okay, so I'm going to add in my 4 tablespoons of sea salt. I'm going to mix it up really well. This is the mouth-watering part for me. I love eating these warm curds. So I always set some aside for us to snack on. Okay, so that's mixed well. I'm just going to save a few for our family because we like to snack on these. We'll probably eat those up like tonight, but just store them in the fridge if you don't. And then I'm going to pour the rest of the curds into my cheese pot inside of the cheesecloth. I've got my little spout over the sink in case it leaks a bit. And you just want to press them down real good. Fold over that cheesecloth. Pop them in the press. Okay, and then you want to press it firm for 30 minutes. And then 30 minutes, flip it, and then let it press overnight on firm pressure. Okay, that's pressed nice and firm. In half an hour, I'm going to flip it and then press it firm again and let it press overnight. And I will show you guys tomorrow the next step. And here we are. Beautiful, beautiful wheel of cheese. Okay, Joel just informed me that you basically couldn't see me at all. So you may have missed me pulling out the cheese and everything. But all I did is I pulled it out of the press. It was in the press all night on firm pressure, so I pulled it out. Here is the cheese, the wheel of cheese. A nice, beautiful wheel of cheese. And I used to always just set it right on this plate and then wrap it up. But now I have this little mat, which just gives it a little bit more airflow underneath. So I set it on this little cheese mat and then on my plate. And then I put the towel on top of that. So so that it still gets lots of air to dry, but covered. So now it is covered and it's just going to stay on my countertop. I will flip it morning and night. I'll just keep flipping it back and forth until it is pretty dry. You shoot for a clammy handshake. I usually go a little bit drier than that, but that is the goal, a clammy handshake. And then once that's done, I will vacuum seal it, date it, pop it in the fridge, and keep it in there. I do for about a month. We're usually not patient enough to go any further than that, but ideally 3 months plus is the best for traditional cheddar. So, but it's totally fine after a month. That's what we generally do. But yeah, if you can go longer, the longer aging, the better the taste. So, all right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was my traditional cheddar that I've been dying to show you guys. We love it. And those curds that I set aside, we scarf those down in seconds. So my kids actually asked, next time when you make a wheel of cheese, can you just turn the whole thing into cheese curds so we can eat them? So I might do that sometime, but they're really yummy. Anyways, this is a wonderful, easy cheese. Yes, it's time consuming, but if you think about it, I mean, it's about a 4-hour process. I'm doing other things in the kitchen at the same time. So I kind of used my, like yesterday, I did my sourdough, I did cheese, I did butter. You know, I just kind of tackled all my kitchen things yesterday. So you just kind of incorporate it with your other little kitchen things so you're not like waiting around. You've got other things to do in the kitchen as well. So anyways, I hope you guys try this out. It's really not as scary as we all think it is to make cheese. We've been eating our own cheese for like over a year now. Nobody's gotten sick. We're all good. It's so good for you and it's really delicious. And it cuts down on the grocery bill big time if you have your own cow. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Thanks for watching and coming along with me. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.